Zambia, and this is our submission. First of all, Zambia is a state party to various international and regional human rights treaties that seek to promote gender equality and equity. Here we're talking about the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, the Protocol to the African Charter, and Human and People's Rights and the Rights of Women in Africa. This is the Maputo Protocol, and also the Southern Protocol on Gender and Development of 2008. We also have obligations under these that have led to Zambia as a state party enacting the Gender Equity and Equality Act number 22 of 2015, which in essence domesticates the treaties and the convention I've just alluded to. Now, an overview of women's representation in governments, in governance and decision-making positions has been set out in the submission. And here we have also said that equal participation of women and men in governance and decision-making is key to achieving sustainable development. Now in Zambia, although women make up 50.5% of the population, they are mostly residents when it comes to participation and leadership in all forms of decision-making. Here we're talking about political office, we're talking about constitutional bodies, public administration, in the judiciary, as well as in the private sector. And we also have seen that global, regional, and global development platforms seemingly do not have enough women. We now are sure that this is underrepresentation of women at various levels. So for our purposes of our submission, we have tabulated Parliament, for example, which gives us a picture of how many males and how many women we have. We have tabulated the information, and we will not belabor those. In terms of cabinet, we've also tabulated the figures. We have 20 male cabinet ministers as opposed to 4 women, for instance. Now, this is the supreme policy making and decision making body in Zambia, requiring the representation of all those of citizens. Now, here we have a disproportionate representation of women, and this suggests that the opinions of the larger majority of Zambians on decisions of national development are likely to be overshadowed, chairperson, especially if they do not align with patriarchal privilege. In terms of the distribution at provincial minister level, we have 9 males as opposed to 1 female provincial minister. Again, here we are seeing that these positions are dominated by men. Chairperson, local government, councillors. We know that Article 154, Sub-Article 1 of the Constitution, provides that there shall be elected mayors and council chairpersons. And out of 116 councils, we only have 15 female mayors and council chairpersons. The picture for councillors is no better, with 1,796 being male as opposed to 155 for females. Here it is clear that female representation is not even 10% countrywide chairperson, with only 8% of women actively participating in politics. The picture in the traditional leadership is no different, with 261 male traditional leaders as against 27 females. According to the 2019 Gender Status Report Chairperson, the 288 of the 288 traditional leaders in 2019, only 27 were women, and then that cascades further to all the positions in the traditional system. Now, coming to the policy and legal framework that governs the 50-50 gender parity, and whether it's adequate or not, we have the following to say. That the framework for gender equality comprises the following key documents, as alluded to earlier: the Gender Equity and Equality Act and the National Gender Policy, which are intended to enable implementation of women's empowerment programs. These in turn facilitate target setting for the attainment of the SDGs as well as Zambia's famous Vision 2030. Now, these policy measures are anchored in the Constitution, the supreme law of the land, which includes progressive provisions for gender equality. In particular, Article 2 of the Constitution acknowledges that every citizen, man or woman, has equal rights to participate in, determine, and build a sustainable political, legal, and socio-economic order freely. Article 8 goes on to provide for human dignity, equity, social justice, equality, and non-discrimination among the national values and principles contained in the Constitution. Now, to increase the participation of both men and women in national governance and decision-making, the Constitution provides that nomination to public office must ensure 50% representation of each gender category. In addition to the Constitution, the policies that I've already alluded to, we have other policies and strategies such as the National Child Policy, the Re-Entry Policy, that have been developed to promote gender mainstreaming to attain equality and equity. For instance, the National Child Policy is aimed at promoting and protecting the rights of children, whereas the Re-Entry Policy allows readmission of girls back into school after giving birth. Other policies and strategies include the Adolescent Sexual and Reproductive Health Policy, the Comprehensive Sexuality Education Curricula in in-school and out-of-school adolescents, as well as the National Strategy to End Child Marriage. In black and white, it is adequate. We will delve further into the inadequacies as we relate it to the other portions of the submission. In terms of the institutional framework that drives the gender equality agenda in Zambia and executive, we already have alluded to to the Constitution, and here we want to bring your attention to Article 231, which establishes the Gender Equity and Equality Commission to further enhance the protection of women's rights. Now, the mandate of this commission extends to the following functions: A, to monitor, investigate, research, educate, advise, and report on issues concerning gender equality. B, to ensure institutions comply with legal requirements and other standards relating to gender equality. And C, to take steps to ensure appropriate redress to complaints relating to gender equality as will be prescribed in the various pieces of legislation. And lastly, as with all legislation, to perform other functions that may not have been listed. Now, we also have the Gender Division at Cabinet Office, which coordinates issues relating to the protection and promotion of women's rights in Zambia. This is the office that served as the Ministry of Gender until 2021. It remains responsible for gender mainstreaming across the public service, and is headed by a permanent secretary. The Constitution has further mandated the Human Rights Commission to take necessary steps to appropriately redress the rights of all persons, which include the rights of women, children, and persons with disabilities. Now, despite this robust framework of big institutions, all backed by the Constitution, we still have challenges in implementation of standards. For instance, despite the Constitution establishing the Gender Equity and Equality Commission, it has not yet been operationalized. This lapse affects the full enforcement of the provisions of the Gender Equity and Equality Act, which relies on various institutions to drive it. This has the net effect of watering down the aspirations that are behind developing that piece of legislation. So it is an adequate framework insofar as it represents basic institutions, but we still have a problem on enforcement. Coming to the regional and international best practices, which we think will inform the need for further work in attaining the 50-50 gender parity. We have drawn examples from countries such as Rwanda, and we believe that Rwanda has made tremendous efforts in driving the women's empowerment agenda, with women holding key decision-making portfolios, and it has been benchmarked as a model for gender inclusivity in the governance system. Why do we say so? Women account for, first of all, for 70% of Rwanda's post-genocide population. In 2003, the country committed itself to reserving 30% of its parliamentary seats for women. Gradually, women have advanced to surpass even that threshold chairperson to about 64% of these seats currently being held by women. This highlights the active political will chairperson by the government to partner with women as strategic contributors.